Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I've got my buddy, Brad Thompson. What's up, Brad? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I was getting bored at the house. I'm glad somebody called finally.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're doing radio now, what, part-time? Is that right?
Yeah, filling in a little bit. It's been a change for me. It's been, as you know, I was doing drive time radio on 101 ESPN on the Fast Lane for like last 10 years. This past year, doing more baseball games with the Cardinals, which I had a blast doing. Season didn't go exactly as planned, but I had a lot of fun doing the games. I'm sure we'll get into that. But I scaled back my work on that side, so now I'm not doing that every day, and I'm reintroducing myself to the family in the off season. My dog's not barking at me now, so that's good.
Who the hell is
But
this
it's been
guy?
a change. Yeah, it's been a big change.
It is a big change, man. Well, you are a blast, as I've told you a million times, to watch on the television. I think you do a great job with the games, and even despite the season we had, it was that's got to be tough, which I'm going to ask that later. But for those that don't know you, 2006 World Series champ, ESPN Radio, as you mentioned, announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals. Just an all-around great guy, but just give us a little bit of lay of the background of people that maybe not know who you are. What's made you the man you are today?
Yeah, well, look, I never expected or intended to be where I am right now. In O'Fallon, Illinois, live here.
Yeah.
In the media at all, that was never a thought. I was a kid who grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I just love playing baseball. And you generally hear people's story of how they made it to the big leagues, and it's oftentimes the same story. It's like, oh, he's the best player on this team, the best player on his high school team, two-way player, hit home runs, played shortstop. That is not my story, like, at all. I don't think I was ever the best player on any team that I played on, and I'm not talking about any big league teams like Albert Pujols and all these guys running around. I'm talking about like Timmy that picks his boogers. Wasn't even the best player on that team growing up, but I always loved it, and I always worked hard, and I was just always there. Like, and I think that's one of the biggest things whenever I have an opportunity to talk to kids. You don't have to be the best player on your team. You don't have to have the best skill set. You have to care, you have to want to get better, and you have to work. And if you do those things, opportunities might come, and that was the case for me. Out of high school, I got an opportunity right before school was about to start to go to a smaller junior college in Utah. At the time, Dixie State College, now Utah Tech, a D1 school now, but a junior college back in the day. And snuck on there, did well. After my second year there, ended up getting drafted by the Cardinals, and it was just kind of a whirlwind. Spent 2 years in the minor leagues, and a month into my third year, got called up to the big leagues and made a career out of it. And it wasn't the easiest. I'm well-traveled, Brett. You know that. I know the way from St. Louis to Memphis really well, big leagues to AAA. The ups and downs of it. I've been incredibly blessed, though, to be able to play the game that I love and do it as a living, and now jump into this, which, again, was an unexpected one.
I think I owe you a couple lunches still from Little Kids Baseball. Can we talk about that on the podcast?
Of course.
No, I don't know.
Yes.
We didn't do that. We did not bet on lunch and his kids'
We just
team.
had
whips my kids' team all the time. And
we had hunches of who was going to – well, I had a hunch.
You
were betting with your heart.
Exactly. Like, he didn't even have a chance. But, hey, we tried to make it happen. So I was going to ask you, too, have you seen Tiger Woods lately?
No. Have you?
No.
Just in spring training.
When
you and I were creeping around his restaurant.
Damn it.
So what's that private party out there? Looks like an awful lot of security for just a normal private party, doesn't it? You and I are peeking.
Yeah.
Tiger was there.
We were in the same restaurant. We're having dinner, Brad and I, and we're like, gosh, that's a lot of people. I think I even tried to go to the restroom and turn right. And
Sir, you got to go this way.
Yeah, exactly. And then we found out, I think, wasn't it you or me? Somebody got a text that Tiger Woods, they didn't know we were there at the restaurant. And they're like, Tiger Woods is at his restaurant in Jupiter. And I'm like, crap, we missed him.
Yeah, it had his daughter's soccer party or something. Either way, I think that we could say we had dinner with Tiger.
We had dinner with Tiger.
Sure did.
Yeah. They were signing their giveaway. My kids, they give away Sour Patch Kids. I think Tiger's end of the year party, they had signed soccer balls from Tiger Woods.
Oh, that's pretty good. And a whole new bag of clubs.
Well, good for them. So let's talk about post-baseball career, man. So, and you already mentioned this, but what did you think you were going to be doing versus what you're doing now?
Yeah, so before I ended up signing with the Cardinals, I had signed after junior college, I was going to go back to Las Vegas and go to UNLV. I had signed to play there for the Rebels. And my goal was to go into criminal justice. I wanted to be an attorney, is kind of the direction that I thought I was heading. And obviously did not go that route, but that was like the thought that I was going to go get into criminal justice. I thought I wanted to go the route of attorney, and that was going to be the path. Now, the path took me through baseball, and it was a tough decision to make at the time, too, because I had the chance to have my school paid for, potentially get drafted higher maybe the next year, make maybe a little bit more money out of the draft, which I didn't make a lot of money. But I also thought, what if I never get this chance again? What if I never have an opportunity to say that I played professional baseball? I can always go back to school, but I can't always get this chance again. So ultimately, I landed on that decision, and so grateful that I did. But yeah, never thought that the media side was going to be a thing. And honestly, it wasn't even on the radar. I wasn't sure, Brett, what direction I was going to go. I knew I was nearing the end of my baseball career. I was playing independent ball. For those that don't know, independent baseball it's still professional baseball. You get paid, not a lot. You get paid nonetheless, but it's just not affiliated with one of the major league teams. I was playing in the Atlantic League, which baseball fans will know what the Atlantic League is. It's also been a league that's kind of broke in some of these Major League Baseball new rules before baseball breaks them in. But a lot of former big leaguers, good baseball league. But I was playing there, and I just I knew that I was close. Like velocity wasn't coming back. I had Tommy John surgery in 2010, and for those that know me well, velocity was never my thing anyhow. So losing a tick off the radar gun was not a big thing. But I got a phone call in the off season, and this was prior to my final year of playing. And it was from the program director at 101 ESPN. I'm sure I've told you this story in the past, but he called me and said, "Hey, I got your number from Chris Duncan." And Cardinal fans remember Chris Duncan, big time power here. Yeah, man, one of my best friends ever. Unfortunately, passed away, brain cancer. And this was in the beginning of it. Dunk had to leave for some medical issues. And program director called and said, "Dunk passed along your number. He said he thought you would be good at this. Could you fill in on a Monday?" I said, "My wife probably wants me out of the house right now." It's the off season.
You can pay me a couple bucks.
I'm going to sit around. I'm going to sit around and watch football all weekend anyhow. That's probably what you're going to talk about come Monday. So I did, and I took over the weekend. It was like copious notes, just like you. You're a note taker, right? I'm breaking down all these college games, all these NFL games. I come in, I get this stack of notes ready to go. I didn't know what to expect. I never grew up. I didn't listen to sports talk radio. I didn't know how big of a thing that was. And like that actually has been really eye-opening to me over the years of the connection you can have with the fan base actually doing that. But I never had that. So one segment in, I get called out into the hallway. And I said, "Oh, I must have said a magic word." I said one of the things that you can't say here. And I said, did that happen? He's like, no. He's like, "You're really good. Would you mind staying the rest of the week?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to stay the rest of the week." And that rest of the week turned into the rest of the off season, which actually turned into before I was going to play and what was going to be my final year. Didn't know it at the time. But they offered me a full-time position at that time on a morning show. I said, "Man, I really appreciate the opportunity. I can't do it. Like, I need to know that baseball's done." Because the last
more
thing
left in the tank, right?
The last thing that I wanted was to be sitting there and doing a job that I like, but wondering what could that have been like had I gone back. Maybe I found something, or maybe magically the arm reappeared. Now, fortunately, the arm didn't reappear, Brad. None of that stuff happened. But I didn't want that thought. I didn't want that doubt that I did the wrong thing. So went back and played, and after a few months in, I just knew the timing wasn't right. My wife Andrea, she was pregnant with our first. He was born in May. I came home for a week, and I was like, "Man, this isn't the place for me. I've got to be done. I need to go home. I need to be with my family, and I need to figure out what is next." So I made the phone call back to 101 ESPN. I said, "Hey, any chance you guys still got that job sitting there?" And I said, "We've been keeping a spot open for you." It ended up being in the afternoon show at the time with Randy Carricker and DeMarco Farr. I said, "If you're ready to come back, we're ready to have you." I said, "Well,"
and it was just the two of them at the time? Maybe? Okay.
Yep. And because it was the three, Chris Duncan was the third on that show, and they had left that one open. And fortunately, I was able to slide into that spot and learned so much from them. Randy Carricker, one of my biggest mentors, and I love the way that DeMarco Farr, who's, he's now in LA, followed the Rams out there. I love the way that he went about it, the energy and the excitement that he had, and just kind of feeding off those guys and learning along the way and trying not to say any of those magic words to get me fired.
Exactly.
And 10 years later, here we are.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think, it's crazy when you think about your career path, what you thought was going to happen. I think so many times, we do planning for a living, right? And it's like, I plan these things, but there's sometimes other plans, and you just don't know what they are. And I think that's when you just got to have trust, and you got to have faith, and you got to do great work and show up every day. And because I'm sure there was days I've talked to other players that when you retire and that thing you love is gone and arguably gone forever, right? That's probably pretty emotional. And so to find that next gear, what was that process like for you? To find out, and obviously you landed into that, but was there that emotional thing where you had to think and journal and dream and do whatever?
Oh, huge. I still remember very vividly the drive home. So middle of the season still, and I had given my manager the heads up, just told him, I say, hey, I'll stay here as long as you need to find a replacement for me, but I got to go. I'm ready to go home. He tried to talk me into being the pitching coach. I said, I can't. I gotta.
And what town was that again?
This is in Somerset, New Jersey.
Okay.
So said, be on the staff.
Andrea was here.
She was here. Yeah. She was here. Newborn son is here. Yeah. So it was flattering that they wanted to keep me around and wanted me to be around the team, and maybe that would have started a new passion. Maybe that would have been coaching and going from there. But my heart was here, right? I had to go home. But I remember the drive. It was so bad. I'm calling everybody, calling family, calling my wife. That's it. They said last road trip. So it's emotional, right? When you're going through it, but you also know, when something's over, when it's time to move on, and that's where we were at. We were at that point. So when it comes to finding a passion for a new thing, whatever I do, I try to jump into. I try to just the energy, the enthusiasm with it, whether it's doing radio, it's doing an interview, it's hanging out with the family, try to jump in. There are days where maybe you don't feel like that, but it's amazing if you come in with that attitude, as you very well know, that's how your day starts going, right? So I kind of poured into it, and it started when I got that phone call. Like I said, I've taken the notes, and I'm saying, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm not just going to show up. And I've seen this a lot now, especially being in the business. You see a lot of former athletes show up and say, I played, I got this. Yeah. And then you're talking to him for a little bit, or they're speaking, and it's like, he doesn't have this. It's very obvious that it's not an easy thing to do. I think a lot of people at home are saying, it's easy. I watch sports. It's easy to talk about sports. Sure. Sometimes it is. Other times it takes different little avenues or nuances to get through it. So.
But it's also you got to know when to talk. You got to know when your voice goes up, down, right? There's more to it than just I know about all this stuff.
Well, and that's something that you learn as you go too, and that is something that I've had to learn a lot more with the TV side of things as I've been doing those ball games for the last couple of years. Is the picture is there on the screen, so I can't be talking about something that maybe even I care about it a lot. Whatever, I've got a good story. If they're showing on the screen, it's Miles Michaelis or it's whoever, that's who we're talking about, or that's what the story is at the time. You have to know when to get in, when to get out, but it's reps, and it's caring about that, and it's realizing when you mess something up, because in my line of work, I know when I mess something up. It's very evident. Usually there's a producer in your ear saying, what was that?
Don't do it.
Nothing. But you care enough to fix it. And just going back to the jumping into a new thing, and this is another thing I like to tell kids when I get an opportunity, or adults, it's a good thing to remember. You never know when an opportunity is going to come your way. Yeah. You never know. Nope. You know when one passes you, though. Know when something just walks out the door and say, I should have done that. So I want to be ready for that. I want to be ready for whatever that next opportunity is.
Yeah, and I always talk too about the old paralysis by analysis, right? You could have that opportunity, but so many people will go back and they got to think and think and think, and then what happens is they think themselves out of it, right? This is a great idea because of A, B, and C, but then that negative thought up here in our mind says, well, I can't do it because I'm this and I'm that. And I think so many times what I try to help people with is just take action. That's one of the circuits on the circuit of success. Take action. Doesn't mean you have the whole thing figured out, but if you trust yourself, again, I've said it a million times, you show up to work every day, good things are probably going to happen.
For sure.
Right?
So liken this to baseball, okay? Because this happens a lot nowadays, paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
We have all of this data. We have all of these analytics.
Yeah.
One of the most important things I believe for any athlete is trust your gut. Like trust you. Believe in your stuff. I don't care if this guy can't hit this or can't do that. What do you do well?
Yeah.
Like, what is your strength? And I think that's one of the biggest things in any walk of life. Like, what is your strength? Do you trust in what you're doing? If you trust in what you're doing, good things are going to happen.
Yep.
It might not be the direct route that you're expecting it to happen. Might not be just A to B very easy, but you'll get there at some point if you believe in what you're doing.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. I think about my first job out of college. I was there for about 6 weeks. I don't think I've ever told this on the podcast, but I was there for 6 weeks. I was in the financial industry. It was a different firm. And I got a call on a Tuesday night that the guy that I was supposed to have lunch with the next day, my mentor, who I'd never met.
Yeah.
Tomorrow was the big day, right? Here I am, 22 years old. We're living in this tiny condo in St. Louis. My wife's got an internship at Barnes. We had one car, and I'm going to go this lunch. I get the call on Tuesday. He actually died by suicide.
Oh my God.
And jumped off a building, actually. And so here I am, this 22-year-old kid, and I'm getting ready to go start literally to knock on doors and try to build a business. And, you know, I've got acne. I'm like, I look like I'm 12. You know, I'm like, hey, give me your money. And so I said, I'm never going to be in financial planning. I'm never going to do investments. That's just not my deal.
Yeah.
I actually went to Busch Stadium. I was going to be the next, now John Mazalek at the time, Mark Lamping. That's what I thought I was going to do. I applied for a job. They said, we don't have any jobs, but do you know how to bartend? I said, yeah, I know how to bartend. They said, we need a bartender for the game tonight. So if the old Busch that you played in, right, they had, remember the left field, they had the stadium club?
Yeah.
I was a bartender in there. Long story short, I got another call from a company. They said, come in. Let's do an interview. I said, look, I'll come in for the practice. I was very upfront. Well, I spent 12 and a half years there, and now 10 years of visionary, and I've done nothing but investments.
That's good practice.
Right? It's good practice. But the point to that is, what is the point of that story, right, Brett? But I think the point is you never know, because what you said, you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And it's how you take it, and then you take it to the next level by what you put into it.
Well, and like to your earlier point, and tragic event, obviously, with your mentor, but that life is not your life. You know, like there are different things weighing on him than weigh on you. It's not necessarily the industry that you're in. I don't care if you could be in the happiest industry in the world or the saddest industry in the world. You could be in the happy industry and be a sad person. You could be in a sad industry and be a happy person. It's your mindset. It's the way that you go about it. And you just got to be ready for when that one pops up. But that is like, I'm thinking about the conversation that you had. It was Mark Lamping at the time.
Yeah.
So, and who runs the Jaguars now, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's right.
I'm just picturing, it's like, yeah, I'm interested in this job. No, but bartending.
Yeah.
Like that's like what a drastic.
What just
like,
happened?
Let's see if this kid will do that.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things too. Like and this is a big thing in the radio industry. If someone asks you, hey, can you do X, Y, or Z? Yeah. Yes, I can. I can do that. And you can dig in, you figure it out. Can you interview so-and-so? You might be a young producer. Yeah, I can do that. That's a chance.
Yeah.
Like that is an opportunity. You might be scared to death. Nobody knows what you're feeling. Nobody knows what you're thinking as you're going through it. Take the opportunity. The answer is yes. Can you do it? Yes. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, Danny Mack said in this podcast, he said he started he was running tapes or whatever they called it back then, right? He's like, literally, they'd be on a cart. I'd run them from one room to the other so the guys could talk about on the air. And,
yes.
Look
He's cutting up film. That was a thing back then. You actually had to cut up tape. And
yeah, it's crazy. So how do you draw up on your playing career now being an announcer? Do you think back to your playing days? Like, does that play a role in the booth?
Yeah, it does. I think back to more so like than referencing my career, which is lackluster. Like I'm actually going to go
World
back
Series champ.
Darn right. I'm going to have you say that a few more times as we go through this. No, more so I think about, first of all, I think about emotions. I think about the emotions of what a player is going through at a given time. Because it is very easy to sit where we sit. You're high up and you're watching on a screen. You see the field in front of you. Game looks easy. Like it looks really easy when you're watching at home and you're having a couple of cold beers. Like, why didn't he hit that ball down the middle? Then I realized I've stood in that batter's box. I've been on that mound. I've done it during the regular season. I've done it in the postseason. I've done it in the World Series. It is a different perspective when you're actually going through it, and things aren't that easy. So that's one of the things that I really try to remember when I'm in the booth and I'm doing games. It's not that easy. So I'm not going to also lie to somebody when you're watching the game. I'm not going to spit on you and tell you it's raining.
Right.
When something is bad, it's bad. But I'll frame it in a way where, hey, 9 times out of 10, he's going to make that play.
Yeah.
Because I believe that.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that the good things are going to outweigh the bad things. You have to mention the bad things.
Right.
Talked about the bad season that the Cardinals had, 20 games under 500. It's hard to sugarcoat that,
Yeah.
right? But you also have to believe in the fact that you didn't have a losing season since 2007 before that.
We were very spoiled.
Yeah, and you know that good things are going to be on the horizon also. But yeah, I always go back to being in those shoes, what it's like. And then the other thing that I lean on a lot is the preparation. I know what the preparation was like as a player. I know how I would dig in and learn about these hitters. Now, there's far more information now than there was when I was playing, and maybe too much information for some guys. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is how to spoon feed some of these players the information that they need without giving them the quote-unquote analytics, because some guys can't really handle the numbers of it but need the information. But I think about that, and a lot of times maybe you'll hear me during a broadcast thinking ahead. Say, hey, if in this spot, I would go with this slider down the way right here. Well, I've scouted him just like the pitcher scouted him. I scout the other team's tendencies and all that stuff. So ahead of time, I feel like I know what direction they should be going in. Now, that doesn't
So you
mean it's
watching
always
film?
right. I watch video breakdowns, scouting reports, all that fun stuff before games. I nerd out with it now, Brad. Like, this is
what you do in your hotel room on the road.
I do. Like, I sit there on the road and I'm like, digging into video and watching, hitters against lefties.
Do you have like the iPad that same when the players are watching the same thing?
I don't get their good proprietary information. I have to dig in and find my own. I should really call in some favors and get that good stuff.
Help a guy out.
Yeah,
just helping the broadcast
instead of all the search engine stuff. But no, it really is. It's fun, and it's like anything else. I dig in and do this thing because I want to inform the viewer, and I want to be right. Like, there's a pride in I'm not just saying stuff to say stuff, but there's also the humbling nature of baseball's ever changing, and somebody's thought process is totally different. I might know from and this goes back to trusting yourself, I might know from my research that I did in my hotel room in Milwaukee, sitting there, that 0-2, a slider down and away, that is the best pitch for Willie Adames. He'll miss it by a mile. I don't know what the guy on the mound feels when he grips his slider. There are times where a pitch in your hand feels amazing. There are times where even if you know in your head it's the right pitch, you grip the baseball, you say, this isn't it. And then you switch it to another grip and you say, this is the pitch I want. Let's go with this one. So, like, that's where, like, the human element really plays in the game of baseball, and I love that.
Well, and also, you don't know what he did last night. You don't know if he got in an argument with his spouse, 3 hours before the game, right? There's so much emotion in it. So, for you, how much of it your playing days, how much of it was physical versus, emotional or psychological?
I think it's a good balance. The physical part of it during the season, at least for me, was maintenance. That was, you maintain the arm care, you maintain all of the stuff that you worked hard in the winter to grow. Like, that was the growing part of it. But playing a big league season, 162 games in 180-something days, like, it's a lot. It is a rigorous thing. So that's where the mental part of it comes in. And I did this mainly as a bullpen guy. I started a bit in my career too, but mainly as a bullpen guy. Everyday players that have to answer the bell every day, that's a different animal. You go 0 for 4 like 3 days in a row and still being able to put in the work. And that's where having a routine, and Brett, I know you're huge on routine and just having something that you could rely on day in and day out. To me, that's the biggest thing. You put in the work, you do during the season and the off season. You do what you know has made you successful in the past. And even if you don't get the results, you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the night and say, hey, I did everything that I could. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. So being able to answer the bell and being able to be consistent in the game of baseball, that's the hardest thing. Like, it stinks to be the guy that is standing there on the mound at Wrigley as they start playing that Go Cubs Go song. When they walk you off. That sucks. It's a bad feeling. You got to be ready the next day. That next opportunity might be there. And oftentimes managers, just like any manager in any business, will likely put you right back into that situation again to see how you react to it. Are you ready for it? And I always wanted to be ready. My
ADD's kicking in, so I'm bouncing between your playing days and your
I do that
booth.
too.
Okay, good. I made me think. You told me a story one time. I thought it was hilarious. Your Scott Rowland story. I think you probably know where I'm going. There's a lot of Scott Rowland stories, and you were fortunate enough, I think, to go to the Hall of Fame thing, right?
I didn't go to it. I was
Okay.
working
Okay.
working the games, but I know what
But
story
you know
you're
which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So-
Let's be honest. I helped Scott get to the Hall of Fame. All those rockets that I gave up down the line that he made these highlight plays on. No, it was an absolute honor to be teammates with Scott Rowland. And when I got called up to the big leagues, it was 2005. It was a little over a month, I think, into the season. And I still remember walking in Busch Stadium. And it was, Busch 2, older stadium. I remember the doors opening like it's a movie scene. Albert Pujols is walking this way. Matt Morris, Scott Rowland, Reggie Sanders, like guys just like
legends.
Yes. I mean, it was I was like a kid. I was like literally like a kid. I was 23 years old, baby face. They barely let me in the stadium. They had to get somebody come in. Nobody believed
Who the hell
me.
is this kid?
Nobody believed that I actually played. They laughed at me. But the Scott Rowland story is when I did make my major league debut, it was Mother's Day 2005, and I remember jogging in from the bullpen, and I think I made the mistake of looking around, even though they say you should soak up the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you should be laser focused. I don't know. But I did this one. I started looking around. I'm like, oh, my gosh. I mean, packed.
48,000, 50,000 people.
Packed.
Yeah.
And surrounding you, too. You know the difference in the stadium. It was loud, and it was all the way around you. And I get in. I throw my warm-up pitches. Last pitch I throw to, it was Yachty. Throw it to Yachty. He throws it down. They throw it around the horn, and your third baseman comes creeping in. He's the last guy to receive the ball. Third baseman, obviously, the Hall of Famer Scott Rowland. He has the ball, and he's holding it in his hand. And he looks at me. He looks around like I did earlier. He's like, hey, your parents make it in town? I go, no, they're not here yet, Mr. Rowland. They'll be here next week.
Rowland.
I think I Mr. Rowland him. He goes, man, a lot of people here, huh? Well, good luck. And he flicks me the baseball. It was like, okay, Mr. Rowland.
Awesome. That is awesome.
But like,
good luck, kid.
Yeah, have fun. Let's see what you do with it. And it was a really fun experience, obviously, to make a major league debut. It was so memorable with that. And it's also really nice to know you have a safety net like that over at third base, where anything that you hit that way, you never had to look at the left side of the infield because him or David Eckstein was going to pick it up and you were going to be good to go.
And on the right side, you got Pujols at first.
Yeah, you were going to be good to go.
Second baseman was...
It bounced around that year. Hey, I had, I think I had some, Belliard late.
Yeah.
No, the Belliard was late in 06. Grizzlonic was there in 2005. So bounced around a little bit on that side of the infield.
What a team, though.
Had Jim Edmonds in center field. Like, just hit it. Go ahead and hit it.
Try it.
Just
anywhere
don't walk
between
anybody.
the
Yeah,
gaps.
don't walk anybody. You'll be good.
So how do you prepare for a game now? Like, what's that like for you?
Yeah, a lot of it is, like we were talking about before, is one of my first things that I do is I prepare like I was pitching against the opposing lineup. So I'll dig in. I'll look at the tendencies and all of that stuff. I'll look at their last couple of weeks of what they've done and all the heat zones and all that good stuff. Then you're obviously looking at your starters arsenal for the day. But I'll dig into bullpens, who's thrown a lot lately, who's likely going to be down, try to manage my way through games like a manager would. Turns out I don't make some of the same moves as other managers because I don't think as fast as some of these guys do. But that's part of the preparation, just watching. And it's a lot easier doing the games the more you do. So the reps that I got this past year, it was easier to do the job because you're around these guys every day. You're watching them every day. When you're in and out, it makes it a little bit more difficult. You feel like, not that you're not watching at home, but it's different when you got your family running around, you're cooking dinner, and like everybody watching games, you miss certain parts of it. But the repetition part of it just makes it big, and that's one of the other things. When I'm around, I want to be around the players. They're the story. Like it's not about me. It's not about what I did. It's not about Chip and I's banter back and forth. It's about what are these guys doing? What are they going through? What are they working on? And that is a lot of the preparation is in being around these guys and getting that information.
And I think, too, that prep shows, and obviously you love what you do. And I think I know about you the same thing. You take lots of notes. You prepare. That's important, and that comes across on the microphone too, right? But I talked to Chip Carey. He was on the podcast, not to keep name-dropping podcast guests, but he said you were one of the biggest biggest helps for him to embrace being in the St. Louis Cardinals, right? You got a new guy. You're replacing a guy that's 24 years everybody loved. That was tough, but he said that about you. So what was that relationship like for you and Chip? And then I came into the booth with you at spring training this year, and it would have been nice to know that he's like 6'6".
Oh, he's enormous.
I had no idea. He stood up. I'm like, oh, okay.
I feel like I'm hanging out with Fredbird again, too. Yeah, except for
right.
Chip talks a lot more.
Exactly. So what's that like for you, you guys' relationship?
Yeah, it was really amazing how quickly things clicked, like between him and I. And hopefully that's something that really comes out on air. Really close, really fast. Now, had the good opportunity to meet Chip over the years, last couple of times.
Okay.
And you know how close I am with Danny Mac. Love him to death. And Dan was one of my biggest advocates of doing more games and helping me and really mentored me through a lot of things. And I know that there are going to be a lot of big things to come for Danny Mac as well, but they made the change, and I don't think that you could have picked anybody better than Chip Carey. If you were going to make that change, the personality is fantastic, his energy, his love of life, and like that's easy to feed off of.
Right.
So when you have a couple of guys that have that sort of energy, I don't care if you're down 10-0 in the first inning, you're a fan. Do you want to listen to a couple of guys just beating a dead horse early on and negative and down in the dumps? No, like at least I don't.
No.
And maybe some fans do, and I do get that. I get the pushback of you're too positive, you don't say anything bad. Like maybe to a certain extent.
Much rather hear that.
But I'd rather just be happy too, instead of. And again, I'll talk about the bad things that are there. I'll spin them positive somehow or another because I want this to be entertaining. I don't want you to tune into a ball game. You're down 5 runs, and you just go, I want to watch Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Stay here.
Yeah.
We'll have some fun. These guys are going to put on a show for you, and let's entertain. Like at the end of the day, it's still an entertainment business. Like I mentioned, the players, the coaches, that's your product. That's what we're watching, and that's what we're propping up. But our job in between all of that is keep you engaged, keep you loving the game, keep you loving the Cardinals, wanting to come back. And I want to build that relationship. One of the biggest compliments that I can get is when I meet people, I said, man, I love listening to you guys. I would just love to have a beer with you. Like I want to build that relationship where I'm like part of your evening.
Well, you're in everybody's
home.
house every night.
Which is creepy.
Yeah, really creepy.
When I talk to kids, I say, hey, I'm the voice that puts you to bed at night.
Yeah.
Like
that's not wrong. I mean, that's what Mike Shannon was, right?
Joe Buck. Like I want to be part of that. And it's fun to be part of such a legacy like that. And certainly we have so many great people that work around it. You look at the radio side of things with John Rooney and Ricky Horton and Mike Claiborne. They do such a fantastic job. Yeah, Chip is great to work with. Jim Edmonds is every time I listen to Jim, I learn something about baseball. He's just got an incredible baseball mind. The entire crew that works over there is great. Al Raboski has helped me out a ton. That's one of the biggest things that I've been so pleased with and just honestly really impressed by is how that whole group has embraced me. New guy coming in. It's a competitive industry. There's only so many of these jobs.
Taking a lot of
there's only so many reps that are out there, and specifically talk about analyst guys. Rick Horton and Al Raboski have been my biggest helpers ever. Yeah. Like if I have a question about something, I can call them up. They help me out, give me advice. It's been
how cool is that to think about their character? Because I mean that you're taking games or reps, as you say, away from them, right? And it's like here they are still helping you. Do you think that's? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's baseball. Yeah. Like that is the mindset, or at least the mindset of the great ones. I'm trying to pass this along. Yes, I want to do this as long as I can. I'm talking about at a baseball level. I want to do it at the highest level, and I'm trying to keep my at-bats, keep my innings. But I also know that someone helped me get here. Yeah. And I want to help this guy get to that spot. And then that guy is going to help the next guy. Yeah. And that's something we've been so blessed with in the Cardinal organization is they've passed these things down. And you've passed down what it means to be a Cardinal and what it means to put on that jersey. Those things don't happen if you don't have players helping each other.
And that's actually what I was going to go with. Wearing the birds in the bat as a player, now wearing, quote unquote, wearing the birds in the bat as an announcer.
You work for suits. That'd be a nice suit.
Nice suit.
Yeah, we'll see
get those custom made. Somebody will be listening, a custom suit guy. Get Brad a suit with custom bats on it. What was I saying? The Cardinal organization. So obviously you don't necessarily work for the Cardinals. I think that's okay to say that, right?
Yeah,
you work for Bally's.
Yes.
Yeah, you're an employee of Bally's. Yep. But yet, how much does the Cardinal organization run through Bally's deep into you guys and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a partnership. Obviously, and I don't even know what the logistics of it are, but I believe that the Cardinals are in on ownership of that too. Like they have they bought into that. But I feel like they work together. That's kind of how the crew is. I know the Cardinals have a say of who is on their airwaves and who's talking about their games. And I'm so happy that I've been able to carve out a niche and have the relationships that I have with people within the organization. Just like I did as a player, every time that I'm doing a game now as a broadcaster, I'm trying to keep my job. I'm trying to get, I want to get better every day, and I want to learn more and more. And I also realize someone's always coming for this job, right? So I want to put my best foot forward every single day and just continue to try to stay in everybody's good graces and do as best of a job as I can.
What's been the most memorable baseball moment for you as an announcer?
Man, that's hard. There have been so many good ones, especially in the last couple of years. I mean, you had being able to be on the call 2 years ago as we knew the future of Yachty and Albert. You knew that they were going to retire. Didn't know at the time the future of Adam Wainwright. Yeah. But those three walking off the mound together.
Chills,
I mean, it's just an unreal sight, a picture that you'll see forever in Cardinal history. That is a big one. Albert Pujols hitting number 703, like the final one, was a big one too in Pittsburgh. Now, I would say 699 and 700. But,
I literally thought about you that night. We were in my
Apple
basement.
TV.
We had people over on Apple TV. I'm like, that sucks for
really,
BT,
Albert?
man.
Both of them?
Couldn't take the night off.
That hurt. So that's one. And maybe I'll change this story. It's like one of those fishing stories, like the fish will get bigger and bigger. Yes, because I was in LA. We were doing the games.
Yeah, because you did it the night before.
Did it the night before, did it the night after, Brad.
Son of a gun.
But I was watching that one on my iPad in my hotel room, and they asked me, say, hey, do you want a ticket for the game? I said, no, I'm going to games every day. I don't need a ticket for this game. What's he going to do? Hit two?
Could possibly happen tonight.
In a couple of years, though, that story will be like, and he hit the home run. And then do you remember him going back and giving the high five? That was me.
Yeah, I was there.
It wasn't Beltray, it was me.
Right. That was funny. Speaking of Beltran, you said Beltray, I think you said.
Yeah, I think Adrian Beltray, but Beltran.
Beltran. What was that moment like? I mean, he was a Cardinal killer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And 2006, NLCS, 2 men on. I think Cardinals were up, 3-1, bottom of the ninth.
Tight.
I mean, I remember like it was yesterday watching that game. What was that like, obviously, being there and having a uniform on?
The NLCS, and specifically that Game 7, is far more memorable than the World Series to me. And I think that for anybody that was in it and viewing it, that was, you go to a Game 7, you have so many ups and downs throughout it. You still remember the Endy Chavez robbed home run of Scott Rowland, where it's like, where did that come from? Like Tyler Johnson, left-handed reliever, and myself were right behind. Like you see Chavez's arm. We're right behind that wall in the bullpen. Like, no,
I was going to catch that and give it to Scotty.
Yes, but that place was so loud. Shea was loud. Have you ever been to Shea Stadium?
No,
Had you been there?
No.
So it was crazy loud, old school speakers in center field. The Apple would pop up. I'm telling you, the place would sway. Like you could see it swaying. It was just an energy there. It was New York. Like it was New York, passionate sports fans in the biggest moments. And then Adam Wainwright, the rookie, comes in and does that. And I know you've heard Adam talk about him and Yachty going through that. He starts him out with a changeup, which is a pitch that he never throws. Like it just had the Yachty's like, hey, this is the pitch, do it, and then set everything else up.
Well, it changed his whole career, probably, right? I mean, you think one, the confidence, but number two, the confidence to listen to a guy tells me in this moment to throw a pitch. It's not my best pitch that I'm not the best at, right?
Yeah,
but throw it, trust it. And he did it, and then holy crap.
Yeah, well, and remember too, that was. I mean, 2 years into Yachty's career? It wasn't like he was
he came up in
he wasn't the cagey vet. Yeah, 04.
Yeah.
04 was his first year. Yeah, well, he wasn't like the cagey veteran at the time, but you already knew what he was, and you knew the preparation that was there. And Adam had that trust in him and also had the trust in his abilities. So if that's what you believe is going to be right, let's do it. And I'm sure that if he felt it in his hand and he was like, this isn't it, he wouldn't have done it, but he trusted in Yachty. He made the pitch, and then obviously made the pitch with the biggest breaking ball of his career.
That's where Uncle Charlie was probably coined.
Sure was. But I think you bring up a great point. Like, what if that went a different direction, right? What if Beltran hit it out of the ballpark. Now, I still believe that Adam Wainwright, a man of conviction, a man of he's been knocked down plenty in his career. Yeah. I still believe that he would have carved himself out quite a career. Yeah. But what a way to start it. Where you do that, and then you transition into starting Cardinal Hall of Fame.
You weren't even the closer. Izzy was the closer.
Yes.
Right?
Well, he was, and then Izzy got hurt, and then he had to take over. Yeah. So he had to learn that on the fly. And again, you want to talk about mentorship. You want to talk about a guy that was going through probably one of the lower times, injured, hip, everything was banged up for Jason Isringhausen, who is one of my biggest mentors as a player and one of the best people I've been around. Yep. But he helps mentor Adam Wainwright through that, what it's like at the back end of games, what to expect, the highs, the lows, like all of that. Yeah. That's a hard thing to learn. When you're like a middle relief guy, you have a safety net. Your team could come back and you gave up 3, but who cares? Well, we won. Yeah. Like, do that as a closer, you lose. Yeah, totally. And then you're the GOAT and not the good one. Yeah. And then you got to come back the next day, and you have to have the right mindset. I think that was a learned mindset. It's also Adam Wainwright just has that something special. Yeah. He's just built that way, of course. But having that mentor early, I think, helped him as well.
Yeah. So talk about the adrenaline of that. I'm one of these guys that I watch sports, and man, I feel the moment. Like, I just would dream about walking into that stadium or walking onto that court or making that putt, whatever it is. I feel the adrenaline at a much different level, obviously, but you can feel it. So for you, having the adrenaline, man, phone rings, they call it up. Brad, you're coming in. Game's online, right? You're coming in, you're walking out of that fence. You got to run to the bullpen or run to the pitcher's mound. Like that adrenaline, explain that adrenaline, and how hard was that to know that you'll probably never feel that adrenaline again.
Yeah, look, aside from the camaraderie, and thankfully in the job that I have, I get that. I still get that around the ballpark, hanging out with the guys, like the broadcast crew is our own team. We all hang out, everybody on the road, go out. And so I get the camaraderie part of it still. The adrenaline aspect, I have not been able to find that in life. Like, I don't know what that is. And you brought up the perfect example of the phone rings. Yeah. Like Pavlov's dog. It's like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And then it's you. It's like, boom, get up, start throwing. Gosh. It's such an amazing feeling. It's such an exciting feeling. And everything just starts beating a little faster, right? But it's still controlled, but it is energetic. It's exciting. And there are things in my life that I'm excited about. There are plenty of things in my life that I'm passionate about. There are not too many things that I have found. And maybe that's your next big idea, Brett. You find that adrenaline factor. How do you get that going? But I do miss that. I miss that energy of going in, and then that feeling, and honestly, even the bad days, right? It's a different feeling. Like, you went out there and you gave everything that you had in what we all know is a game, right? Yep. There are bigger things that are going on in the world, but in your world right there, just like anybody that is going to their job, that's your world. That's a big deal. Others might not look at it as a big deal, but to you it is, and it should be. When you put everything out there on the line and you just let the chips fall where they may, like, that's a freeing feeling when you have that.
It's incredible. See, I'm trying to think the next question I wanted to ask here. So how did you you talked about the camaraderie. How do you stay a student of the game with what you're doing now? And you've kind of touched on that, I guess. Continually watching stuff.
Yeah, you have to keep watching, and you have to be willing to change too. Yeah. I mentioned earlier some of the data and the analytics, and I'm sure that a lot of baseball fans, and especially in St. Louis, you've got an old school baseball fan.
Right.
You've got, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Ozzie Smith, legends. Legends. And like, that's the style of baseball that you like, is throwback and old school. Things have changed. Okay. It's 3 true outcomes. It's home runs, strikeouts, and walks. It's missing bats as a pitcher. It is velocity. It's spin rates. It's exit velocity. It's all of these different things. And I can't talk about a job is to grow the game. Mm-hmm. I can't sit there and be like, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't matter. It does matter. Right. And it does mean something. These evaluators are evaluating off of some of these things. Yep. Scouts are scouting off of some of these things. Guys are getting paid off of a lot of these different power numbers that are out there. It means something to a lot of these different guys. So one of my biggest things that I try to do is, even if it's something I'll read on the surface first or see a new stat come out, Like, that seems stupid. Let me dig into it at least. Like, let me
Be open-minded.
Exactly. Let me continue to learn about this, or let me figure out a way where I can feed it to a viewer or somebody just passing by. Say, hey, what does this mean? Say, let me make it make sense to them and make it matter to them, where it matters to people in like the analytics community. But I try to keep up as much as I can with all of the other teams in baseball. I get home, I'm watching MLB Network like every other baseball fan, because a lot like playing.
Henry's like, turn that crap off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I have to go in the basement. I go home, I go right in the basement. But a lot like playing, I can't just go home after a game. I don't care how long the game was. I can't just go to sleep. There has to be that unwinding period, because that's as close as I get to the adrenaline now that we were just talking about, that in my ear, right in the headset, 3, 2, 1, live. And like, boom, it's like, okay, here we go. Like, this is real. Brad, don't say any bad words.
That's the nice thing about a
pay
podcast.
attention.
You can cuss.
Yes, that's great. I don't want to get used to it here, though.
Right, exactly.
and then do it.
Why do you get
fired?
Later.
Well, Brett said.
Yeah. Talk about the pitch clock. Did that change the game this year?
It did. It did. And being an old school baseball person, I hated the idea.
Yeah.
Hated the concept of it. I liked being able to be that high horse guy, Brett, where it was like, well, we're the only game that doesn't have a clock.
Oh, yeah.
We're not.
We're not. Damn it.
But and this isn't just a broadcaster standpoint. Look, I get a half hour back every night, it seems like.
True.
So that part of it is nice. But I really do believe the game wasn't meant to take 3 hours every night.
Right.
We've slowed things down, and a lot of it has been the information slows it down. Like, a lot of that takes time, and the evolution of the utilization of bullpens, where it's matchups in the 6th, 7th, 8th,
3
9th.
pitches and they do it again.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that rule changed too, at least with the 3-batter minimum a couple of years ago. So that sped things up. But I really there's no reason to be out there and hold the ball for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, there's not. Now, I don't like the limited pickoffs. I don't enjoy that. I think that you should be able to do that 10 times in a row if you want to. I also believe that the pitcher should be granted a timeout just like the hitter is granted a timeout. I feel like that should be a thing.
That's a great point.
It just doesn't make sense, right?
Did you write
Instead
that
of it
in?
being, I put it in Rob Manfred's his box out there, the suggestion box. We'll see how that goes. I think a lot of pitchers have been beating that drum, but I think that's something that might end up happening at some point. But I do think that the pitch clock, it did a good job of speeding things up. And I really do believe, and I don't know if there's actually hard data to back this up. I'm sure there is, because there's data for everything now. I think that it has affected the hitters as much, if not more, than the pitchers. You have a lot of hitters that take their sweet time getting into the box, adjusting their batting glove 50 times. Skip Schumacher, manager of the year. Congratulations to him. But there are guys, and Skip would do it fast, all right? Skip would be in the box, do it fast. But there are some guys that would take such a long time doing stuff like that. There's no need for it. Get in the box, get ready to hit. Get on the mound, get ready to throw the ball. Now, the only one that, I'm not sure I love is the pickoffs. And I think that one of the biggest weapons that a pitcher has, and again, I understand why baseball is doing it. They want to speed up the game, but they also want to add more excitement. Stolen bases are exciting. One of the biggest weapons that you have, though, with runners on base is your ability to hold the baseball. So if you are there and you got a burner at first base, if you can just hold the ball, and a few seconds feels like an eternity for a base stealer that's ready to move, that can slow them down. Yeah. Now you have a countdown. So that makes it a little bit.
And then the next time you go quicker, so you can't get in with your cadence.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So that changes a little bit, but you still have 20 seconds. Now they're talking about bringing that down to 18 with runners on. You still have the ability to do it. You just have to mix it up a little more.
You know what drives me nuts? I don't know why it drives me. I'm like the old man Brett getting mad at these young baseball players. Is when they pull, they go to their back pocket and they're pulling the card out. I mean, I understand what they're doing, but I'm like, at what point do we not? We're a professional athlete, and we got to put some work in, and it's not some guy handing me a card and say, okay, when this guy's up, then you're going to stand here. Like I just miss the gut feeling and doing what you think you should do. That's part of the game.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think there are a few things. I think that we get so caught up in he's supposed to do this that when he does the other thing, we're not ready. Yeah. So letting those instincts, letting that athleticism take over, I think is important. It just goes back to where is the fine line? I think that if you're neglecting the data and all of the things that have happened, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
If you're just going fully on gut instinct, you're doing it wrong. Where's that middle ground? Where can we find that where we still allow the athleticism? We give you the prior knowledge of tendencies, but you know that anything could happen. So I like that part of it, because our athletes now in the game of baseball, they're bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic than they ever have been before. We're not seeing it. We don't see that athleticism anymore. And I think that was part of the idea of limiting the shift, is having more rangy athletes, is not having a second baseman standing in right field when a guy hits an absolute missile that used to be a hit.
Well, just about ruined Matt Carpenter's career.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
for sure. So again, I don't know if I like that either, the limiting of the shift. I go back and forth, because like in my brain, I say evolve, right? Evolve as a hitter.
Yep.
They're all standing over there, hit it over here.
Well, that's what I don't understand. Is I'm like, for Carpenter, I'd be yelling at the TV like that stupid fan. I'm like, if they're all over there, just slap that thing down the line and fix it.
Couple of things, right? Couple of things that go into it. And it harkens back to when I said it looks easy from up here when I'm watching the game.
Absolutely.
So
I couldn't even stand in the batter's box. I'd be scared to death. But.
A lot of times they say, hey, just hit a ground ball the other way. Well, the pitcher knows what your tendency is, that you're a pull hitter. They're going to pitch you to it. You're going to get a lot of cutters in. You're going to get they're going to let you hit it that way on the ground.
Impossible for you to try to do
it's
that.
very difficult when somebody's trying to get in your kitchen to hit it the other way. And then the other part of it, Brett, is monetarily. Monetarily, you don't get paid to hit 300. And it sucks to say, but these guys get paid for doubles and homers. And doubles and homers aren't coming slapping the ball the other way. So this is next level. This is Rob Manfred and company better get together with like Elon Musk or something.
Right.
But like, how do we incentivize the game where that does get you paid? Where it's the ground ball to the right side to get the guy over. That's a quantifiable stat. Like winning baseball should be the goal all the time. Realize that people have you have a small window to go out there and make your money.
Yep.
And you get it again. It's strikeouts for pitchers, it's home runs, it's doubles. But man, there are times in the game where I need a ground ball to that one side, where I need that sacrifice fly. I feel like there's got to be a way to encompass that more into winning baseball for everybody, and have a pool of money for that, or the guy that hits the single and hits 300 or whatever. I feel like we're losing our complete baseball players, and it's not the fact that these guys can't do it. Like, that's the frustrating part. It's just the fact that the game doesn't benefit them doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So do we talk about the Ohtani deal? I mean, do we dare go there?
I should have played better. That's one of the first things that I think about.
Well, you should have been a right fielder as well as a pitcher.
You think so?
That's
talented. Those all would have been good. 7 years, $70 million deal with, what was it, 68 per deferred?
Yeah, so here's my question. And
you're the financial guy.
Right. And so here's what I don't understand. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. And I haven't read it anywhere to see if it's out there. So if I'm the fan, let me go on my soapbox for a minute. If I'm the fan, that's just great for the next. Is it 7 years or 10 years, whatever it is?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years,
$700 million.
I'm excited for the next 10 years, assuming he stays healthy. But what about the 11th year, right? So now the guy's getting paid $68 million
to not play
for you. They talked about Bobby Bonilla, like his deal, right, with the Mets. Yeah. Remember that one?
Yep.
Still getting paid, I think. But point is now I'm paying $68 million. So number one, I don't know if I like that as a fan. But number two, as the financial guy, Ohtani is, I'd rather have my $70 million today, because my fear would be, what if they're not around? Obviously, the Dodgers probably aren't going anywhere. But that's what you got to think about, right? What if they're not there? So I don't know if they buy an insurance policy on that, but he's putting a lot of trust in the Los Angeles Dodgers to pay me in 10 years.
Brad, I didn't even think about that. That's why I have guys like you.
That's right.
That think about things like this. So one of the ways, I guess, that he is able to do this, not that you want your money and you want to be able to utilize it and want to be able to grow it. I guess one of the ways that he's doing it, they say he makes at least over $50 million a year off the field. So that helps.
Okay. I didn't know that.
To be able to do that.
I figured he wasn't going broke.
No,
but
chances are. I think I was looking at this the other day. I think that with the $2 million that he's technically making, as you and I were talking before the podcast, though, it'll cost more, or it'll look like more, at least when they do the luxury tax or whatever. But for the $2 million that he's making, I think he's like the 10th or 11th highest paid player on the Dodgers right now. Like it's kind of a silly figure that is out there. But I don't know. I don't know how this shakes out at the end of it. I don't know how it works out for him, but I do know it allows the Dodgers, a team with a lot of financial flexibility anyhow, obviously, to be able to sign a deal like this. At some point, you're going to have to pay the piper. But it also allows them to go out there and add more pieces. They already made the trade. They brought in Glass now, and they signed him to an extension. Apparently, they're still in on Yamamoto, which is crazy. And who knows, by the time somebody watches this, maybe Yamamoto has signed.
Right.
He's met with a few different teams. Don't believe the Cardinals are one of them at this point. Maybe they are. Mystery team. We'll go with that, mystery team. But it's if you are able to structure a deal like that, it sure does provide your team some flexibility. And I wonder, like, what doors is this gonna or this Pandora's box? Like doing.
Well, I think the advertiser dollars they're gonna be able to get.
They'll pay for that. They'll pay for that.
That's why unfortunately, Ohtani can't. Well, I guess he can. But to come to St. Louis is going to be hard versus you got to be in L.A. or New York for that amount of money.
You would think.
You would think so.
Yeah,
right?
you would think so. So I'm interested to see it. Like I'm looking forward to. You think about that lineup. You think about three guys. You got three Hall of Famers in a row. You got Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman. Stop.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
You know who's going to be calling his game?
Who's that?
Brad Thompson.
That'll be fun.
I mean, right?
Hope I get the Dodgers series.
Isn't that who we open it against?
Oh yeah, in L.A. Right in the beginning.
I mean, BT
it's
in the
Shohei
big
time.
City because he'll be. Yeah, he's back. He just has to DH next year.
Just
right?
gonna DH.
So he'll be ready for opening day.
Real quick, yeah, and he will be. That's another thing you want to think about this investment. That just tells you off the field they're going to make all their money. Yeah. They're going to be fine. You have a lot of smart people crunching the numbers over there with the Dodgers. What if he doesn't pitch again?
I know.
He's had 2 elbow surgeries.
Oh, I didn't know
he's
he
had
had
Tommy
2.
John, and then he's had whatever this last one was, which I think that they've kept close to the vest. Obviously, the Dodgers have to know exactly what he had. But that's a lot. That is an enormous risk, but it just tells you the unicorn that Shohei Ohtani is, that even with the murkiness of the future, maybe to them it's not murky at all. I just think 2 surgeries, one area is a little scary when you're investing like that. Yeah. Like that is a lot to be thrown out there. For
I think the rehab, I mean, you know that from experience, right? I mean, the rehab to come back to that, who knows what's going to happen with the arm. It's scary, man. So last question for you, Brad, is you think about your amazing, well, now I got 2 questions for you. One of them is about your kids. What do they think? Obviously Dylan playing baseball and stuff now. I'm sure your daughter pays attention to that stuff. And what do they think about dad, doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, they're finally at the point where I think that they understand what it is that I do. And as I mentioned earlier, my son was born tail end of my career, wasn't in the big leagues anymore, so he never got to see that. And he never, my kids never got to come to the field with me and go play on the field, like stuff that I got to see all these other guys do. Where I was like, look at these old guys and their kids. My kids never got to do that. Like, what a great thing it is for all these kids that get to kind of grow up in a clubhouse. Well, they kind of get a little bit of that now with me doing what I do. They can come up to the booth and kind of see what that is like. But I hope they think it's cool. There are downsides to it, right? Like any other job. We were talking about youth baseball earlier. Unfortunately, the youth baseball season, which like if perfect world, if I weren't doing that, I'd be coaching all the time. Like that's it. I'd have a youth academy and be doing all of that. I miss a lot. I miss a lot of the kids stuff during the summer, and that part of it is very difficult. And that's why this time now in the off season is so great to be home and be able to pour in a lot more. But I think that they like it. But I'll be honest with you, I think the biggest thing that they get a kick out of is that I know Fred Bird. That's it. Like that.
And you do your show.
Fred Bird's my in. Yeah, I got the Cardinals Kids TV show. That's my in.
That's awesome. And that last question I was going to talk about is obviously the community is very important to you and your amazing wife. You guys do awesome stuff for our community here in St. Louis. But when you think about legacy, I mean, what do you want the Thompson family to be known for? And what's important about that to you?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. No, honestly, I'm not sure how much I've actually thought about legacy. Like I thought about down the road, but I know this. I don't ever want to be the person that is walking up and you're like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Or like I want to be somebody that leaves when somebody thinks about me or what I do, like they smile. Like and I want to bring excitement. I want to bring happiness, and I want to be able to give back. And I think that is important, Brett. And I know that's something that you and your wife do a ton of in our community, and it's something that I would love to just build something more than the right here, the right now, this game. And, that's kind of a process. But I think it's also a great example. You've got, a young family who are learning how important that is, that it's more so than just the I am doing this right now. It's like, no, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing as a community, as a people? So I'd like to continue to grow that. But I think that any way that I can help in the community, I like to do. I like to be around, and I like to just be a part of things. And it's special being here, being a part of a community. St. Louis and the greater St. Louis area is it's big, but it's small. Like it feels like a family, and it's nice to be a part of it.
Looking for the date exactly. I should know that. But speaking of stuff for the community, for those listening, February 10th, put that on your calendar. The KC Hall at O'Fallon, Illinois, Rock for Hope. Our
nice.
Swing for Hope charity. We've got a band, the Nashville All-Stars is what we're calling them.
Okay.
It's like big country music people. It's like their guitar player, their drummer, their whatever.
Yes.
When they're not traveling with their main people, they come together. And so they're coming here from Nashville, Tennessee on February 10th. At the KC Hall. We're going to raise some money. We're going to kick cancer's ass and listen to an amazing band. So maybe you'll see Brad Thompson there.
Oh, no doubt. If I'm in town, I'm there.
You're there.
How long have you guys been going with Swing for Hope?
Since 2007. It's been amazing, man.
A long time.
It is a long time. And so, the story, my mom's mom and her grandma and two of her aunts were all diagnosed with cancer at the same time within about a 6 or 7 month period. And so that was a lot. And so we were driving and thinking, what are we going to do about this? And so we started our charity. And so with amazing people in the community, I look out the windows here. I mean, we couldn't do what we do without the people and our board and people like you that show up to events. It's awesome, man. So thanks for asking. But this is about Brad Thompson. 2024 season, what are we predicting?
More wins.
Yeah, more wins.
That's what we're calling. Look, the Cardinals, they made some additions, and I know a lot of people joking around. It's like, man, they got older. Yeah. They got better, is what they did. And at this point, 3 additions to your rotation, Sonny Gray being the headliner, who I think is a fantastic pick. You get a 3-year deal for Sonny Gray, a guy that knows exactly what he's doing. I think that he's going to be great. Second in the Cy Young voting last year. Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson add certainty in the middle of your rotation, and especially Lance Lynn. And Kyle Gibson adds leadership for sure. But Lance Lynn adds an element that you didn't have. Somebody that, a little porcupine, a little bristle in there that will push back. And I think that's an important thing to have in a clubhouse. So I know that he's going to add that. Yeah. You picked up a couple of bullpen arms, one in a trade with Boston, other in the Rule 5 draft. I don't believe that they're done yet when it comes to the pen. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see the young guys. I want to see year 2 of Jordan Walker. Yeah. Can't wait to watch Mason Wynn, man shortstop, for a full season. The kid is
So he'll start. They already said that?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Like, that's the plan, at least, that he'll be the guy. So I'm looking forward to that. Goldie and Arenado, another year with those guys. Like, everything is right there for the Cardinals to compete and hopefully win the Central. Other teams have been pretty quiet in the Central. I don't expect the Cubs to stay quiet the entire time, other than hiring Craig Counsell away from the Milwaukee Brewers,
which is crazy. Your own division, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, especially how much money they paid him, right? Yeah. Gave him a $40 million deal over 5 years. Pretty impressive. So you would believe that they're not done adding to it. But I think that they should be competing for the division this year. Yeah. And I know Cardinal fans hate to hear it because they want to talk about building what the Dodgers built, right? Yeah. Go out and just spend all of this money. But it is very true, and I think the Dodgers can tell you this too, as they don't win the World Series every time they get there. Get into the postseason. Get yourself, and specifically win your division. Win your division. And you never know what's going to happen when you get into October. So that's the hope this year, that we have a deep run into October. I think you got the right pieces to do it. And I also know that you have the right prospect capital. If you get close to the trade deadline, you believe that you're a piece short, that John Mozeliak, Michael Gersh, they can go out and make a deal like that.
That's awesome. Where do our listeners find more of Brad Thompson?
Right here on this podcast is where you find I'm hopefully be doing a lot more games on Bally Sports, doing a lot of fill-in work on 101 ESPN. As I've scaled back, but I can't stay all the way out. Andrea doesn't want me home all the time, Brad. I got to be able to get out of the house. So hopefully you hear me popping up a little bit more here this new year.
Man. Thanks so much for being on the Circuit of Success. Awesome having you. I think you might be the only 3-time guest, because you were. I looked at this last night. We did this in April. I started this February 6, 2017. You were on in April of 2017. I looked, so our kids would have been like 3. My fourth and your oldest would have been 3. And then we did, which was a blast for me. Hopefully it was fun for you all. Me, you, Jason Isringhausen, Kyle McClellan, Jason Simon Tachi, and Brian Jordan.
That was a fun one.
That was awesome. We were all at home. Remember that? It was
Yeah,
supposed to
the
be
big
opening
Zoom one.
day. Supposed to be opening day for the Cardinals, and we had an amazing, hour and a half, 2-hour deal. So that was awesome. So, brother, thank you for being with us again. It's awesome having you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor 3 times.